Hey folks, it's David Thompson here, and today I'm going to be talking about fear and how it impacts your life and how you can overcome it. Now, if you take a look at most people, they have some form of fear in their life. And the primary fears that most people experience are the fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of public speaking, and the fear of death. These are like some of the most common ones that people get all caught up in. So let's take a look at some of the things that actually impact. How does it start? Well, when you go right back to your younger years or in your childhood, there's a very good chance that a lot of people have experienced like a lot of negativity, not a lot of encouragement, not a lot of support. Maybe you weren't quite as loved as much as you could have been as a child, or it was just different for you. So you grew up with a negative impact in your mind, and you had a lot of people around you that created a negative influence. Well, here's what happens. You experience a low self-esteem. You experience a lack of self-confidence. And if you take those two factors, then that is two of the most powerful things that actually holds a lot of people back. Because if you have this story that you bought into about yourself, whether it's you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're just not capable of doing things, then chances are you're going to hold yourself back when the opportunity is presented to you, and you're going to make excuses. And the excuses are really just a way to cover up your fears of doing things. Now, if you take a look at one of the acronyms for fear, it's false evidence appears real. Now, that means that that's your perception of how it is. And perception is reality, but you can change that anytime you want. So if you decide to make up a whole new story about yourself, then you can change your life, your personal life, your relationships. If you're in business, if you like the level of success you want to experience, all of these things that fear has been holding you back from. Like, I'll give you an example, the fear of rejection. When I was younger, I was petrified to experience the fear of rejection. And the idea is that it just came from a limiting belief that I had about myself, that I kind of imagined that people were going to be saying no to me. And that just came from just the way that I was raised. So, like if that's one of the fears that you have, then you have to learn to find new ways of looking at it. So when I started developing myself on personal development, when I started getting in and talking to mentors in business, they just started to tell me that if you take a look at it, you just start embracing it instead of being afraid of it. And if you take action, you can learn to overcome it. Like there's an example of John Maxwell, who's one of the greatest leadership gurus in the world. And he just recently wrote a book called Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn. But most of us know that phrase as sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And losing is considered to be failing. But what happens if you reframe it in your mind, just like he did in the title, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn? Because one of the greatest things that a lot of successful people have told me in their life, and from my own experience of being successful, is I learned the most from failures. And I learned that if you want to be successful, then you're going to have to learn to deal and cope with rejection, because that means if the more successful you want to be, that means the more rejection you're actually going to face. Let me give you an example. A professional baseball player gets out 7 out of 10 times. 7 out of 10 times they have a negative experience. And that means only 3 times out of 10 they're successful in reaching base. Now, guess what? They get paid anywhere from $3 to $6 million a year, and they're classified as some of the most successful hitters in baseball. So 7 out of 10. So just imagine if you look at that, that's called a ratio. So when you do something 10 times, how successful out of those 10 times are you? Because if you, typically speaking, when you're presenting something, whether it's in sales or whether you're offering somebody, whether it's you as a business owner and you're presenting something to somebody, they're not necessarily saying no to you. They're saying no to what you're presenting or how you're presenting it, but it's not you. But if you internalize it as something as being personal, then you're going to take that inside of you as a rejection. So that means that you're going to have to change the way you look at it. So if you take a look at if you do something 100 times, nobody is bad enough to get all no's, and nobody is good enough to get all yeses. So just imagine if you only got it right 30 out of 100 times and you're going to get paid a few $1 million a year. Do you think that you'd be more inclined to try something like that, to get out of your comfort zone, to do things? Because if you can change your limiting beliefs by investing into yourself and personal development, you can overcome rejection by just reframing how you look at it. If you take a look at the fear of death, everybody has their idea of how they look at it, but in reality, that's something that we're all going to have to face sometime in our life. It's not if, it's when. So a lot of these things are inevitable. So if you want to grow and be successful in your relationships, to be successful in your personal life, and more importantly, if you're in business, to be successful in business, you're going to have to learn to change the way you look at it, and you're going to have to embrace the challenge of overcoming these fears. Otherwise, what you're going to experience later on in life is a lot of regret. And if you're looking at regret, that's one of the things that weighs heaviest on your soul when you get older in life. And that's not something that you can change, because remember something, time is something that we don't get back. So take that action today, empower yourself, change the way you look at it, embrace those new beliefs of anything is possible. Start building your confidence one step at a time. And when you start to develop higher self-esteem and higher self-confidence, you're going to start to see that endless possibilities is a given, okay, that you're going to experience. I hope this has given you some value. I hope you've learned something from this, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.